member, and the more I've been here, there you go. It's amazing how many people have confronted these ailments that are out there impacting so many families. I want to thank everyone that has made the trip to come here to be behind it. We're lucky that we're going to have a lot of folks behind an effort like this. It took 4 years, literally, to get the bill to this point, and it's a long journey to get through it. It is a milestone. You and your families, you know what you've lived through. I think this is that moment where we unlock hope in the sense that you know you've talked about it, you know you've wrestled with it, and just the hour or so, maybe two, that I spent on the Senate floor yesterday getting other senators to get involved was amazing. We've got offices that generally get stuff done. We know how to get it from here to there, and this has been an interesting journey. So know that today is the start of where we're going to put everything behind it to get it to that next level. I was so lucky when Senator Gillibrand from New York decided to be my co-lead on the other side of the aisle. It is bicameral with Representative Quigley. You're going to hear a few comments from each of them, and then we're going to hear some of the real life stories after that. Senator Gillibrand.
Thank you so much, Senator Braun. It's a real honor to be here. I can't thank Senator Braun enough for his vision, his determination, his commitment. It really matters, and that's what it takes to get things done here in Washington. I want to recognize Representative Quigley for his leadership and all that he is doing for us in the House. I want to recognize Emily Milligan, the Executive Director of the Barth Syndrome Foundation, Dr. Hilary Vernon, the Associate Professor of Genetic Medicine at Johns Hopkins, Tim Tobin, Mike Hugo, Tamara Eckes. All of these advocates have made a huge difference in getting us where we are today. Earlier this year, I invited Jeff Ballard to talk with me about his experience living with ALS. Jeff was diagnosed with ALS in 2017 and was told he would only have 2 to 5 years left to live. Instead, his disease has progressed relatively slowly, giving him the opportunity to become a powerful advocate for those suffering from rare and terminal diseases. Jeff explained that one of the most frustrating things about being a patient with a rare or terminal illness is how difficult it is to get access to new and promising treatments. Under the current FDA drug approval process, it can take more than a decade for promising treatments to become available to patients. Even when these treatments have been in development and preclinical testing for years and have already shown convincing evidence of patient benefit, it can still take years before they come to market. But those suffering from rare and terminal illnesses don't have those years to wait. It's a story we hear far too often from those diagnosed with ALS, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. It's the story of millions of children with rare diseases who will die before they are 5 years old, many due to the lack of marketed treatments. We don't have to sacrifice the safety and efficacy of the FDA approval process for rare disease patients to access promising therapeutics. We can give patients informed access to new and promising treatments even while the research is ongoing. That's what we're working to do in the Promising Pathway Act. This legislation would establish a provisional approval pathway for medicines intended for serious or life-threatening diseases, including illnesses posing a threat of epidemic or pandemic. Such provisional approval would only be granted if the FDA determines there is substantial evidence that the drug is safe and early evidence that it is effective in early trials. It's devastating to learn you have terminal illness with only a few years to live. The Promising Pathway Act is a ray of hope for those diagnosed with rare terminal diseases. It's bipartisan and it's common sense, and I will continue to work with Senator Braun to move this legislation forward. I'd like now to introduce our partner in the House, Representative Quigley.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. My staff, of course, wrote great notes for me today, but I see you and I just want to tell you what I'm thinking. Whenever I feel sorry for myself, I remind myself that there are people with rare, incurable diseases, and I see the courage they show, and it lifts me. Whenever I feel bad about my country and our democracy and I worry about it, I'm reminded that at one of the most polarized times in our nation's history, we united on a bipartisan, bicameral basis, in a way I've never seen in almost 15 years here, to pass a measure that's similar in spirit and thought to this, the Act for ALS. What I saw from the staff on both houses, from the members, and from the community, all of the neurodegenerative disease community came together and supported each other because they understood at the heart the essence of finding cures is centralized, and solving one of those mysteries will help all. And the night it passed, I saw people on the House floor hugging and crying because they knew what it meant. And finally, when I feel like there's something that can't get done and I'm in a tough spot, I'm reminded of my friend Brian Wallach, who received that diagnosis that too many people receive and people in this room receive, which was, he was told was a death sentence. And he and his wife Sandra, rather than going home and giving up, took action like you are, and showed remarkable resilience and hero-like qualities. When we watch TV and movies, we think of heroes wearing capes, right? Heroes are everyday folks sitting next to us who do remarkable things under trying circumstances. Let all that be the premise, the path for how we go forward with Promising Pathway Act. Let us unburden ourselves from our animosity and a thought that isn't true, and remind ourselves that there's more that unites us than divides us. Then there's nothing we can't do. Let this be the next step in that journey. Thank you.
So we're going to hear some real life stories here in a moment. And just for the few minutes I've been here, I've been asked, what can you do? Well, when you go back to your home states, get a hold of your representatives, get a hold of your senators. That's how you galvanize support from the grassroots. We've already got balanced co-sponsors on this. We've got Senator Manchin and Senator Warnock, Senator Manchin from West Virginia, Senator Warnock from Georgia on the other side of the aisle. And we've got Senator Kramer, we've got Senator Murkowski, and we've got Senator Wicker. And that's a good start. When you're balanced out of the gate, that means you're going to go somewhere with it. So next, we're going to hear from these folks that listen closely. Anybody out there watching, this is important. They're going to tell you the stories as they've lived through it. We have Tim Tobin. He's been an advocate and a member of the legislative team at IMALS. Tim lives with ALS and will be sharing a few words on his experience and what he thinks of the Promising Pathway Act.
I'll move it for you.
Okay.
You just get comfortable.
All right. Thank you so much.
I'll hold it.
Oh, great. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Senator Braun, Senator Gillibrand, Representative Quigley. I appreciate it very much, everything that you're doing for the ALS community. My name is Tim Tobin, and I am living with ALS, a progressive and 100% fatal disease. I'm here today in support of the Promising Pathway Act. And I have heard some criticisms of the Promising Pathway Act by the FDA and a few others, and I'm here today to address a couple of those criticisms. First, the FDA's position is that it has all the authority and flexibility that it needs to act quickly to get drug access to people who need drugs desperately. However, its current pathways are not workable for ALS. For example, the FDA frequently points to its accelerated approval pathway as a way to get drugs to people with difficult conditions. However, accelerated approval is available only where a drug is shown to have a direct clinical or shown to have a positive effect on a biomarker that is likely to predict a direct clinical benefit. And unfortunately, ALS, with very limited exceptions, does not have a biomarker that is scientifically accepted. And therefore, accelerated approval is simply not an effective pathway for this disease. The FDA also points to programs like expanded access programs, also known as EAPs, which are great programs, but they are very limited in what they can actually do in terms of affecting all who are impacted by a drug. So for example, if people who are eligible for expanded access programs are only typically those who are not eligible for a clinical trial. So therefore, it's excluding a large number of people who have ALS. Also, expanded access relies on drug manufacturers to offer the program, and they're under no obligation to do so. Second, some critics have said that the PPA would allow numerous drugs into the marketplace that don't work, and that's simply incorrect. The PPA is limited to very serious conditions, and it also has a approval standard that, while is intentionally is lower, it remains rigorous and based in science. So the approval is provisional only, and it's time limited. Required patient registries bolster the data that can be collected about a drug's safety and efficacy. Importantly, under the PPA, the FDA has the power to withdraw a provisionally approved drug if there are safety or efficacy issues. And most significantly, drug manufacturers are still incentivized to obtain full drug approvals, which still remain subject to the FDA's substantial evidence of efficacy standard. In sum, the FDA and other critics' concerns are unfounded. PPA is common sense legislation that will speed access to promising drugs for conditions that do not have effective treatment options. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you, Tim. Next, we have Emily. Dr. Hillary, yes, we got Emily Milligan, yes, CEO of Barth Syndrome Foundation. Thanks for being here today. She's going to give you a few thoughts on it, and then after that, we'll hear from Dr. Vernon. Emily?
Thank you. Thank you all for being here today. It means a lot to us. We greatly appreciate you taking the time to be here today, to listen to our struggles with regulatory inconsistencies in the FDA's review process of potential therapies for ultra-rare conditions like Barth syndrome. The Barth Syndrome Foundation has faced significant regulatory hurdles in our efforts to advance access to meaningful investigational therapies like elamipretide for the less than 150 Americans with Barth syndrome. The Promising Pathways Act takes a critical step to streamline many of these drug review and approval processes by enabling swift, evidence-based consideration of cutting-edge therapies. Barth syndrome is a rare, ultra-rare, life-threatening genetic disease that results in cardiac dysfunction, severe skeletal muscle weakness, immune issues, and debilitating fatigue. It's horrible. It cuts lives short too young, too frequent, and commonly without warning. It steals memories from many and strips others of basic human dignity. We face a tremendous burden in encouraging the FDA to accept a new drug application for elimipritide, which has been shown to increase the muscle strength of affected patients by an astonishing 45% and heart function by 40%. In one instance, a young child, toddler, Declan, he was listed for a heart transplant, his only prospect at survival, until the experimental drug reversed his outlook on life and allowed him to leave the hospital not with someone else's heart, but with his own heart. Stories like Declan's demonstrate why over 60% of people who are in the original clinical trial remain on the drug to this day. Yet despite these and other benefits from elimipritide, the FDA has continuously moved the goalposts year over year, thereby diminishing our ability to conduct additional studies. The Barr Syndrome Foundation remains steadfast in our unwavering commitment to advocate for patients with Barr syndrome and to promote expanded and equitable access to critical health care. Looking ahead, there is urgent work to be done to make ultra-rare disease treatments available and possible. Today represents a step forward for Americans who depend on the regulatory system to work and to work for them irrespective of the disease they have. We would like to thank Senators Braun and Gillibrand and Representative Quigley as well for their bipartisan leadership in advancing these goals through the Promising Pathways Act. And we also commend the FDA on progress it has made to advance ultra-rare therapies. That being said, the FDA must act now to review products like elimipritide fully and equitably. Rather than penalizing those with diseases such as Barr syndrome, we ask the FDA to please give these patients the possibility of a better and longer life. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we're going to hear from Dr. Hilary Vernon. She's the Associate Professor of Genetic Medicine at Johns Hopkins.
Good morning. I would like to start off by thanking Senator Braun, Senator Gillibrand, and Representative Quigley for inviting me to speak about an issue that is so close to my heart. My name is Dr. Hilary Vernon, and I'm an Associate Professor of Genetic Medicine at the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. I'm here to speak in a personal capacity about my role as a physician who specializes in rare genetic disorders and as the director of a research lab focused on developing treatments for these disorders. 5 years ago, I had the opportunity to speak at a congressional briefing where I described a 5-year roadmap to developing a new therapy for Barth syndrome. As you've heard, Barth syndrome is an ultra-rare, life-threatening genetic disorder. I spoke about how this roadmap would serve as a model for the development of therapeutics in other rare conditions, offering hope to patients who are affected by devastating rare disorders for which there are no approved therapies. I am proud to say that together with my research team, we completed this roadmap. We identified a promising treatment in elimipritide, verified its effects in a cell model developed in my lab, and then conducted a clinical trial with the collaboration of the Barth Syndrome Foundation and the industry sponsor. The clinical trial, as you heard, demonstrated improvements in major life-threatening and life-limiting features of Barth syndrome and demonstrated both safety and tolerability of the drug. However, with all of the promise of this amazing scientific breakthrough, the story is now stalled at the FDA. The story is stalled because there is not the regulatory flexibility or systemic understanding of the challenges presented by rare diseases. And while this story is stalled, patients are losing ground and losing lives. My colleagues and I continue to work on developing new therapeutics for rare genetic conditions, and progress is around the corner for so many diseases. However, there needs to be a tenable mechanism for these drugs to reach our patients. This is why the passage of the Promising Pathway Act is so important. It will help bring amazing therapies already in development and those yet to be developed to the patients who are desperately waiting for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vernon. Next, we have Mike Hugo, a father who was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer not too long ago, about a year ago. Come forward.
Thank you sincerely, Senator Braun, Senator Gillibrand, and Representative Quigley. I really appreciate what you guys are doing. On April 21st, 2022, a day like today, beautiful day, my life took a drastic turn. I was driving home from work when I lost consciousness due to a seizure, resulting in a horrifying crash that left me with multiple spinal fractures. As I lay in the bed, brain scan revealed something that I'd never imagined, a brain tumor known as glioblastoma. I've recently completed standard protocol, surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, the same protocol that has been used for nearly 5 decades, with the only addition being the tumor treating fields that I'm wearing. Despite enduring these challenging treatments, I find myself essentially in a holding pattern, waiting for the inevitable return of the tumor. The story's not just about me. It's about my family, my precious baby daughters, Bridget and Brooke, and others that are like me, someone's mother, someone's father, spouse, grandchild. They're the reasons why I stand here today filled with hope and advocating for change. I yearn to be with my family, watch them grow up, and go through the different milestones. These moments matter more to me than anything else. Every second of every day counts. The current compassionate use program in the FDA hasn't significantly improved glioblastoma survival rates in 50 years. While it's meant to provide access to promising treatments for diseases with poor prognosis, like glioblastoma, I'm here to tell you that it's flawed, and I'm living it through its flaws. I'm incredibly fortunate to have resources and access to opinions of some of the best doctors, and they have proposed a few treatment plans that seem very promising, but I can't access them. Either I don't qualify for the trial, or there is no way for me to gain access. I'm eager to fight, to live, and to have more time with my loved ones, but I encounter too many roadblocks. This is why the Promising Pathway Act is crucial. It offers hope to individuals like me by providing early access to innovative treatments, doing so with a learning system so the doctors can determine the best options. If you support this act, we can change the trajectory of all of these diseases. Glioblastoma, it doesn't care if you're Senator Edward Kennedy. It doesn't care if you're Senator John McCain or Beau Biden or someone else like me. Right now, the outcome, it's the same. All of us have the ability to help change that. Please help pass this act, and please call your representatives and senators and try to get as much support through your friends and family as you can. It will help somebody and have a huge ripple effect. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, for sharing your story. Next, we have Tamara Ickes. She's the co-founder of Reflections of Grace. Her daughter passed away from DIPG, an extremely aggressive form of pediatric cancer. Tamara?
Good morning. Thank you so much for the opportunity for being here to tell our story. My name is Tamara Ickes. I'm the co-founder and president of the Reflections of Grace Foundation, a steering committee member of the DIPG-DMG Collaborative, and a member of the board of directors of the Cure Starts Now. I am a lifelong resident of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, currently residing in North Huntingdon, PA. I have worked for 31 years as a public school educator. I am the proud mother of 4 children, 25 and 28-year-old sons, and 2 daughters, one who is 13, and one who will be forever 5. On January 4th, 2007, our then 4-year-old daughter, Grace, was diagnosed with a rare and deadly brain cancer called DIPG, diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma. We were told this disease had no cure. Although we were in proximity and had access to one of the best children's hospitals in the nation, Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh, both my husband and I were devastated to find out that Grace was only given a mere 9 to 13 months to live. Her prognosis was without a treatment plan that could ensure her survival. The normal course of treatment was simply to extend her life for a few months. There were slim offerings of drugs, and we were told that none of them were specifically targeted to her rare brain cancer. When we questioned why this was the case, we were told there were simply not enough children affected with this cancer. It was too rare to make it worthwhile for drug companies or government funding to support its research. Left with insurmountable feelings of inadequacy as parents and no other option, we chose the standard treatment and began to make memories with our daughter. On February 14th, 2008, 13 months after her diagnosis, our family was forced to say goodbye to Grace. It is my ardent hope and prayer that you will never experience our anguish, the complete despair that we felt as we held our daughter in her last moments of life on earth, knowing that we could not save her, that we could not extend her life. She did not get a 6th birthday celebration, the chance to finish kindergarten, to take the stage at her dance recital, or to lose her first tooth. Although you cannot understand the unfathomable grief that we have encountered due to Grace's illness and death, I ask that you act on the urgency of this matter. The children diagnosed with DIPG do not have the luxury of time. Families have mere weeks to navigate the current system and make decisions regarding their child's last months. Children diagnosed with DIPG need the Promising Pathway Act. This act allows these children to access drug therapies and treatments to extend their lives. It does not undermine the FDA gold standard or patient safety in this process. Grace told me that she did not want to die. She wanted to live. I tell her story and stand here today to advocate for the children that, like Grace, deserve a chance to live.
Thank you so much. Do we have any reporters in the crowd here today? Well, if not, we may do that later or after the hearing. That starts at 10 o'clock. Kirsten, do you have anything else you want to say? Okay. This is just a few pages, Senate Bill 1906, but we're here today with it. So that is a long journey to get here. This is a great attendance for any hearing in the Senate. And as you stay here and listen, just know that this is the beginning. And for everything we can see as senators that get stuff done here, we're going to try to get this across the finish line. So hope starts today for something to really change, and look forward to the hearing starting here in about 20 minutes.